Welcome back to Growth Without Referrals. Today I'm joined by Nick Grose, founder of Grose Wealth Management in Northern Virginia. Nick enters the wealth management space about 2 years ago and is right in the middle of the phase where advisors find themselves in, moving beyond referrals and actively experimenting with new growth channels. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mark. Excited to be here.
Great. And Nick, before we get into growth strategies, I would love to start with your journey because every advisor's path into this business is different. Let's rewind a bit. What originally drew you into wealth management?
Yeah, I've always been pretty passionate about finance and investing and economics. I'd say since a young age. My dad was a financial advisor my entire life growing up. And I guess he kind of passed on a lot of that passion to us growing up. So I was always, very intrigued by it. And he even started for us when we were young, college 529 plans to help pay for college. And he would do kind of a dollar for dollar match. So any Christmas or birthday money we got, if we threw $200 into the 529 plan, he would match it with another 200. And then he would show us, reports of the money growing with the ups and downs over time, but constantly rising. And yeah, that really piqued my interest from a young age. And then by the time I got to high school, I really just enjoyed studying finance, investing, economics, like for fun on my own, even outside of the classroom. You don't study so much of that in your basic high school education. So that's when I really started to dive into that stuff and then carried on throughout college and even thereafter.
Okay, great. And Nick, what did those first few months look like when you were just getting started?
Yeah, so I joined the business in 2024, actually about two years ago exactly today. And when I first started, it was more me trying to get my feet wet and get some experience. So I joined alongside my father and sat in with him on meetings with his current clients and did a lot of the operational work, like filling out new account forms, transfer forms, stuff like that. And then also, updating investment strategies for clients and everything. And really the first, I'd call it 4 to 5 months, I just wanted to get a ton of experience to really understand the business a lot better before I kind of set off on my journey to start building my own business and calling people and knocking doors and trying to get my own clients.
Okay. And what surprised you the most about entering the industry?
I'd say, one is I was pretty surprised at, I say surprised, but my dad's knowledge on this industry. He has so much, he's been in it for 30 plus years and he's dealt with so many different situations. He's dealt with, great market times and terrible market downturns like COVID, 2008, 2009, all sorts of different experiences. And yeah, seeing him do all of that, that was a big surprise. And seeing I could just ask him any question that a client's asking me or just I'm wondering about, and he just knows a quick answer to it off the top of his head, usually even a better answer than I could try to get finding myself on ChatGPT or Google. That was a big surprise that, I could just turn to him for all sorts of questions. That was a nice resource I had. And then additionally, another surprise would be, I guess not too surprising, but it's quite difficult to make it in this business, to bring in new clients. We're in the business of being the financial partner with our clients, for their lifetime journey. It can be a little tough for someone to meet someone new and give over their entire, not give over, but let them manage and be a partner with them for their entire wealth they're starting to build up or they've built up throughout their entire life. We're in the business of trust, and people really need to trust you if they're going to let you work alongside them, helping them on all their financial decisions. So yeah, it's tough to build a client base and make it in this industry with, getting people to trust you with everything.
I love those insights, Nick. And how awesome is it to have your father as a resource that you can go to and ask questions because he's been in the industry for so long. And he has built trust with his clients, I'm sure. And that's true. Building trust with clients is so paramount in this business. And most people early on rely heavily on relationships and referrals, which makes sense. In those early days, how much of your business came from referrals and relationships?
That was my entire business when I first started, was those exact two things. We got quite a few new referrals from when I joined with my father, and we were meeting with current clients and, it's providing maybe say a higher level of service, providing more value to them and everything. So we got quite a few new referrals since I've joined on. And then additionally, relationships I built over my lifetime. So whether it's my own friends, parents of friends, or family friends, stuff like that, pretty much my Rolodex, reaching out to a lot of them and seeing who I could possibly help out. That was everything when I first started. That's how I got my feet wet, got my first clients, was those exact two categories: referrals and existing relationships from my own personal life.
Okay. And at what point did you start thinking about expanding beyond referrals?
I started thinking about that pretty quickly. It's not you only have so many contacts in your phone or so many friends on Facebook that you kind of reach out to and see if they need a wealth manager. And once you can exhaust that list pretty quickly, and I think I did. So once I got to that point, I needed to figure out, all right, how am I going to keep building a business to survive in this industry? Because I saved up money from my old job to, start this journey and join alongside my dad, where I was living off savings when I first started, but I needed to build my own clients and make a living myself. So I'd say within the first 6 months to 8 months, I quickly had to find alternative routes to bringing in my own business.
Okay. And that is usually when things begin to shift and when experimentation starts. You mentioned during our earlier conversation that you are actively testing different growth methods right now. Walk me through what you've been experimenting with.
Yeah, I'd say one of the first growth methods I started doing right away, like in that 6 month point, was door to door. Typically with people, when people see someone coming door to door, it's like they're trying to sell pest control or replacing their windows or something like that. It's not too common. Someone's trying to knock on your door and say, you want to, invest your money with me, or let me, be a financial partner. So it's a little not too typical, but I figured it has worked for people, and figured why not try it out. My dad even did it a little bit when he moved into a new office. He just knocked on some of the doors nearby and actually got a few new clients from that. Maybe he's a little more confident with it and better well spoken, but I tried that out for a good bit, went to various neighborhoods, got like the solicitor's license to be able to do it, and logged a lot of hours. And, it didn't end up being the best return on my time spent doing it. I did residential neighborhoods in this Northern Virginia area, and I did some small business, like went into office parks or business buildings and tried to speak with the owners and stuff. So didn't realize the best return on my time spent doing that. So that was kind of one of my first growth experiments. And then the next one I went into was this paid lead system, where there's this company that got TV commercials and big presence with online ads and stuff. And if someone fills out one of their surveys online, they get matched with 3 different financial advisors in their local area. So paying for that service. Some people maybe get misled by the ads and they're like, why the heck are you calling me? I didn't plan on this. So you get a lot of no's on that, but some people we are definitely able to help, and it works out. The problem with that one is it's not so organic. You're spending a lot of money on that with the hopes that to bring on new clients. So that was my kind of step 2, which I'm still using and getting ROI. The next one I'm now really trying to experiment with is I recently started my own podcast similar to yours, where I'm interviewing some of my connections that are business owners or entrepreneurs, and just trying to get some more exposure for them and myself in the social media realm, and then building out my own YouTube channel and posting short form videos and longer form videos across YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I know that game is a tough one to play. It takes anywhere from like 3 to 5 years to actually build a following and start realizing results from it. So I'm committing to it and consistently posting and, pretending to be a social media influencer. So yeah, that's what I've been experimenting in. And then now also trying to experiment into some paid Facebook ads. I've trying to target some of my high performing short form, like reel videos on YouTube and Facebook, and use those as marketing content for targeted Facebook ads for the local area in North Virginia. And then experimenting with like paid Yelp ads. Just the main thing I'm kind of looking for is try out different strategies and track my spend on it and my returns on it, and then figure out where's the optimal place to be putting my time and energy and money.
I think that's really smart, Nick. And out of the things that you've tested so far, what has surprised you the most?
Surprised me the most. I would say I would say the social media marketing, doing all these videos and everything. It seems like a lot less, it seems easy on the surface to do, but I've really found that it ends up taking a lot of time and yeah, mainly time on my end because I'm recording the videos myself and, pre-writing my script ahead of time, practicing it, trying to speak off the cuff, and then editing the video in a video editing software and then scheduling out the posts over, a couple months or so. And that all takes a good bit of time. I know there are marketing agencies that can do this stuff for you, but I am not at that scale yet to be able to be paying someone to be a full-blown social media marketer. So I'm doing a lot of it myself and figure while I'm young, why not work 80 hours a week and see what kind of returns I can get. But yeah, it's been a big surprise. The video content creation is a lot of work, and I give a lot of applause to those who have made it in the YouTube game and have built a big following. It's not easy.
It's a lot of work and a lot of experimentation. And, I applaud you for doing the knocking door to door. I mean, that is really challenging. And I'm sure you get to meet a lot of people and get to hear a lot of good and bad feedback when you do that. So that's great. So on the flip side, is there anything that you thought was real promising that did not produce results?
I'd say something I thought was real promising that did not produce results. I could take that shot at the door to door, just given that I did land some new business with it. But I think for the hours I spent, it didn't have the best returns for how much time it was. I mean, it was healthy. I'm getting good steps in the day, get a little sun, if I'm out there. But and I don't think I can fully cut that off because perhaps my skills for that cold door knockings, like soliciting, were not very refined at the time, and I could, maybe benefit and get a much higher ROI if I really improved that skill set. I actually feel like now that I've gotten so much more experience in the business and brought on a lot more clients and feel much more confident with everything, I feel like that confidence would, extend beyond me to the doors if I'm knocking. And I feel like I could do a lot better at it now, but now I'm working on other strategies. So not getting as many steps as I would be otherwise nowadays.
Sure. And what would you do differently if you were starting again today? I mean, each of the things that you've tried, I'm sure you've taken away some wisdom, but would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I'd say for differently, I would say that I would have tried to build up my social media brand right away from day one. I think that there's still so much returns to get on that organic traffic to your social media, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and even your website. I think putting the time and hours into that stuff from the beginning, just as much time and hours as you can right away to try to, because it takes a long time to build that following. On the other hand, though, timeline for building a following and getting returns from all of that can be collapsed slightly if you just do X the volume of what a normal person would do. So I feel like putting more of my energy and resources towards the building my social media presence and building my brand, especially through video content. I feel like the written blog sort of content is somewhat falling to the wayside now with AI. People, instead of trying to read a good article on should I do Roth conversions, they now can just type it into ChatGPT and get pretty much what would be a well-written blog post on it. And so I feel like the video content is the number one winner because especially in our business, it's a relationship business. They're trusting you as the individual, as the advisor. I mean, they could go work with one of these big banks or big firms and just get continually passed off to the next junior advisor or something. But our clients that work with us, they're doing so because they know it's just one person to call. They get my father and me for their entire financial life to help with everything. Yeah, the video content I think is going to be the long run winner for me. Able to repurpose that video content for things like Facebook ads or Yelp ads or Google ads or YouTube ads. That's where I'm putting a lot of my resources and time and effort right now.
Okay. Nick, you mentioned earlier in our conversation about now you're doing your own podcast, which is really interesting. What have you learned from being on the hosting side of a podcast?
Well, I've learned that technology is not the easiest thing in the world. I even had an issue with my mic when I first got on this session today. But besides like the little nuances with technology, the technology is great too. I use a similar platform to you, Riverside, and it's so nice how it can be just like such a high quality editor for your videos so easily. But the podcasting itself, just being the host on that host side of the podcast, it's a lot of fun because the whole time you really just get to talk with someone that's, for my podcast, it's, an entrepreneur or business owner, someone that's kind of building their own business and clientele, and just pick their brain on what they're doing, why they got into it, where they found success, and just have that fun conversation. It's really great. And you just get to hear amazing stories from all different types of people, and all of those different stories, you can take away like a few different tidbits of advice from that as well. So it's really fun and interesting to be on the host side of it. So I appreciate you doing it too, Mark.
And you're right. I mean, it is fascinating to hear the stories that people tell on their journey, on their life journey. And Nick, what advice would you give someone thinking about starting a podcast in financial services?
I think for starting a podcast in financial services, I think I had a little bit of concern before I started mine on whether are there too many players in the game, and the top people have already made it and they're going to keep crushing it. I just think there's so much room for so much content, and we're still, even though the YouTube and the podcasting has been around for quite a few years, it's still in such a nascent like stage. It's so young, and there's so much room for exponentially more growth. So I think the best time to start was yesterday, and the next best time is today. Same thing with investing. Trying to time the market is not the best bet when you look at the grand scheme of 100 years or 50 years. Typically, the best time to invest was yesterday, and the next best time is today, and not trying to sit and wait for the next downturn.
Okay. And being on both sides of the microphone definitely gives a unique perspective. Looking back over the first 2 years you've been in the industry, what are the biggest lessons you've learned?
The biggest lessons I've learned, I'd say hands down, the number one biggest lesson that I've learned in my industry is to almost overly communicate things. Every possible update you can get, you need to be calling or emailing your clients and letting them know what's going on, and just that you're on top of everything, even if something is delayed, or even if you haven't had time to get to a task that you said you were going to do for them. As long as you are proactively communicating just almost too much until they get annoyed, they're going to appreciate that so much. It's when you are not communicating, then when people start to get concerned or worried or feeling like you might have forgotten about them. And even if you haven't forgotten, like I use my Microsoft Planner to track all the different projects and tasks I'm working on for all different clients and everything. And some things are lower priority, so they kind of fall to the back burner, but I still have them on my list, and I do get through them before the due dates and everything. However, yeah, the biggest thing I've learned is you need to be such a good communicator, especially like bringing on a new client when you're transferring accounts over or opening a new account. All those little updates of, hey, the paperwork's been submitted. Hey, the account just opened. Hey, the money just hit. All of that stuff, it goes such a long way. And even if they're not responding to you, hopefully they're seeing those emails, and it lets them know that you're still thinking about them, because that's what we're doing in this business. We're trying to make sure that we are on top of their finances and doing the best we can for them at all times. So that communication is so key in this business.
Well, that communication builds the trust, which is so key, right? So I agree with you. Communication is paramount. And what advice would you give someone just entering the business today?
Advice I would give, let's say like a younger person like myself entering the business today, I would say that you need to time block and spend almost half of your day trying to build your business. And that's on the prospecting side, whether you're looking on local Google business listings and cold calling business owners, or knocking door, creating video content and running ads. You need to be spending, when you first start, almost half of your hours. If you're doing a 40-hour week, well, probably better to do an 80-hour week, and then spend like 30 to 40 hours a week on those revenue generating activities, which would be things like prospecting, trying to get people in the door. And then the other last thing I would say is it's extremely valuable to have a coach. If we want to get better at a sport, or we want to get better at a language, like speaking a language or something like that, or playing guitar, we You get a coach. We get private one-on-one lessons. We go to group trainings. And the best ones are obviously the private one-on-one trainings. It doesn't make any sense why someone would, we do this to get this stuff to get better at sports or playing guitar or something. But when it comes to like our careers, we often just do it. And we don't really think about how we could improve. And one of the best ways to improve is to find people that have achieved success in your industry and pay someone to actually coach you and help you on that aspect, especially paying for the coaching too. I think that's really good to make sure you've got some skin in the game. But yeah, I'd say the biggest first two things are spend your time on revenue generating activities and then get a coach, whether it's with your public speaking or your sales training or where you should be focusing your time and efforts. I'd say those two things are going to be well worth the time and money you spend on them.
Okay. Excellent perspective. Thank you. And where do you think the industry is heading in terms of client acquisition?
Where the industry is heading for client acquisition. Obviously, the referrals is like an easy one. That's where people can, find, get a referral from someone else. But like that's besides the fact. And it's how are you going to get referrals if you're starting from square one, right? You're not going to. So I think the way the industry is going is on the social media route of the YouTube and the Facebook and TikTok, all those videos, and making sure that you're building your own personal brand, branding yourself, you talking to the camera, explaining things, and building that first layer of trust just emotionally, where they see your content and they start to understand that you're an expert or professional in your field, and that gets them the foot in the door to pique the interest, and then they can move forward by click on your website, reading more about you, and possibly reaching out to see how you could help them out. I think the social media and video content are the two. I feel like that's where the industry's going. I don't really know. I read Gary Vaynerchuk's book. It was really good. And I took a lot of advice away from that. And he's the biggest social media marketer in the world, arguably right now. And that's exactly what he's seeing is it's got to be the video content, building your own personal brand. We're seeing that with sports athletes now with the NIL stuff, and they're building their own personal brands and getting paid on that, or even in college. And you're seeing that with movie stars, anyone. They take their fame from the movies or film and stuff, and then go start a tequila brand. Seems like every celebrity has their own line of tequila or makeup or something. So I think that's the biggest thing is building your personal brand and doing that through video content.
Nick, this has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate your willingness to share what growth looks like in real time, especially during that experimentation phase. Before we wrap up, if someone wants to learn more about your work or connect with you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and talking as well, Mark. And if someone wants to reach out to me, the best way would be our website, grosewealthmanagement.com. And my last name spelled Grose, not SS. But otherwise, they can find some of my content on my personal LinkedIn or my YouTube channel, which is Nick Grose, or search Grose Wealth Management. Yeah. Financial advisor Nick Grose, and we're based in Northern Virginia, and we serve clients mainly in the Northern Virginia area, but also across the country.
Okay, excellent. And for our audience, I will be posting Nick's contact information in the description of this podcast. Nick, thanks again for being here. This was a fantastic discussion.
Thank you very much, Mark. A lot of fun. Really appreciate it.